back from Sunday, with something else. I mean, the whole. He was young-ish and he wants to buy a $3 million house.
Oh, yeah, it was on the calendar. I think it changed because of both.
So the uncle is either gonna. Yeah, it's just what's the next thing around.
I think it's.
Yeah.
If I open up, yes. I have a fire.
Yeah.
So I do all of JJ's pitches to everybody that comes.
Oh, nice.
Overwhelmed enough.
Yeah.
Take
Like if you're doing it. Take this look at it, call me.
Yeah, but also it's good because I get to post the graphical.
Yeah.
So much. I'm doing one in Santa Clarita this weekend.
Yeah, I was thinking, I had somebody say,
Saugus. Yeah, I know, it's like a
But
50
then
minute
also-
drive, and I'm like, and it's both week, the
Yeah.
whole weekend, I was like, well.
and then how many weekends are you gonna do it?
Yeah. it
But you're
depends.
on it and you have to share a listing like you don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's something with you. Be hard to do, like, drive the 50 minutes.
So-
Go to the valley.
Oh, someone yield like. or post the bills out. Yeah. At some point. At least keep them in that journey. But they are, that's what I'm doing. But can you do adjust listing or can you? Well, the first one was open. house. Sent the.
Next class.
And the next one's sitting out tomorrow. We're still not getting them back.
You'll be here for the next class, right?
Okay, sweet, perfect.
At a certain point, there's like a limit to how much marketing you can push.
I agree. I agree.
Because like in the beginning, it makes sense to do a good amount.
Yeah.
But then,
You can spot advertise though, like what, $50 at a time, $80, $100,
I'm
like,
not sure. $80.
well, depends on how big your circle is. I mean, it's gonna cost you 50 to 80 just to print them. And it's gonna cost you
Oh,
22
it's more.
cents.
from what?
Oh, no, because you're only gonna spend like a couple hundred, 500, maybe
Someone
max.
Canva, and they're like $20.
Canva is
Yeah, you
$20.
can make your own, and I got 50 for like $23.
I sent out 250 last week and it cost me like 150. It wasn't that bad, but then I had
That's like
postage on it and that was another 100.
Hello.
So yeah,
Are you
everything
cute?
adds up.
Thank you.
I
I got a chance.
want to do buyers.
I figured I'm in for a dime, I'm in for a dollar. Morning.
Rolls?
Are you involved?
Yes.
How's it going? Tell us. I know. Talk about it.
Doing it.
So now I feel like I owe you. It's a good experience.
Sorry.
Is it going well?
Okay.
Yeah, you don't know it?
I think it's a must.
Okay, okay.
It's what I hope. I hope more like old calling. But they,
It's up to you to do that.
no, I thought in both, you actually do phone call. This is what I thought, like. because
I thought it was like part of like your afternoon.
Yeah,
It's
but
like
you
you're
don't
also
know.
there, gymming.
If they're playing, I'm gonna play. Okay.
It's like training.
Coaching.
I get that for cheap.
I'm gonna play Friday. All right, I gotta go. I need to do a Yelp.
Yes, you do.
Because your Yelp looks really good.
I have a Yelp for now. I'm trying
Okay.
to see if it works at all. And then if not, we'll cancel the like payment plan, switch to Google, see if I like Google. I did AdWorks first. I obviously have nothing like in the portfolio. So that's,
Have you received?
We have to have the Google search though, so you come up.
oh, well, yeah, but I
Look
mean
at you.
like Google,
Yeah,
do like
build the
Google
free
advertising versus Yelp advertising, and you can pay or you don't.
With
See.
the app advertising, have you just used a lot of spam calls?
Not really. I got like
It's
one
spam
call from
calls on
them.
my
Do you
KW,
want to set it up and like
email.
do
Are you
the
serious?
Yeah, I've had 3
Like the
people come
paid, like,
through
your
and tell me that they're
sponsor.
interested in hiring a
Yelp
realtor.
page? And I was like, I'll try it.
Found
If
you
you're
on
not gonna-
KW,
I can see if
whatever it
it
is.
works. It's like I'm willing.
And I respond to them, hey, that's great.
One
I'd
type
love
of
to be a realtor.
advertising.
Let's jump on a.
Cause like I
call.
did AdWorks for 6
Details
months
Yeah.
with.
Their responses,
Website, but like.
I really want to find a
reaches.
space, but you have to.
I
reach
got
out
like
on
30
WhatsApp.
something thousand.
And they get
Yeah.
their phone number on WhatsApp
Just
and I
from
want
AdWords, just from it going on the
Little scam.
website.
Yeah.
Hey, JJ, I wanted to tell you one
Google
thing.
actually, like, website.
I got a couple of
But until I
email
had some
leads through my
website,
KW portal, and I thought, wow, this is great. There were 3 different individuals. Turns out they were
And that was
scammers on what,
expensive.
looking for me to join WhatsApp.
86.
Yeah.
Just want to let you know.
I did that through AdWorks.
AdWords.
Okay.
It's one that we get a discount. It's just another advertising one. For you. This one you pay for is that.
We're all gonna get paid.
You just want to be and you just.
Actually, an agent in here that sent some money to someone,
Oh,
a gift card, $200.
through WhatsApp, right?
So,
Yeah.
so basically we have people reaching out through WhatsApp.
Websites.
So we
Their
To-
websites. It's like it works and you get.
Say they're get you on WhatsApp,
That's
it's a crypto conversation.
Right.
And
Okay.
you're transferring crypto.
Everybody should hear that, by the way.
Should hear this.
Everybody should hear it,
Also,
Yeah, that's like anything.
No, it's okay.
right? That are not.
or Michael Rosales,
Going to try another
trouble and he needs you to wire him $500.
business. fund.
Oh, gosh.
Call you,
It's not that.
like, you gonna.
What's calling you asking for money?
Sponsored.
I
page.
gotta go.
Pretend
See, no,
you like to try.
Kelly.
later.
The Yelp one now, and I'll do it. 3 years,
So I wonder if-
months, depending on how much it is. Same. No,
Like,
because I don't have anything like, hoping it brings any traction. Right now, I'm paying for it. It's that like you start to.
I used to see, but me as she like with.
So which movie ended?
Yeah, things.
It's not working.
Yeah, they'll remove it. It's the thing. So I'm trying Yelp one. I'll try the Yelp one. I'll see if it does anything. 'Cause, like, if it works, cool. And I'll keep doing, keeping my page like a sponsored page. Cause like if it actually brings
This is what-
business, it's kind of worth it. But I don't know if it
We ended. So here's my concern is that if we're compensated.
Yeah, exactly. That's, I still need to like do this bit separate from having a sponsored deal. So like if I can do
Everything.
a or two
All
to review and put a review on
right,
it.
we're gonna talk about, we're gonna talk about.
But that's been voted to. It's don't work beyond like.
Flyer process. All right,
Someone's like.
Yeah.
And then.
flyer process.
Have to do dress. Is your first one? Are you still this?
It was, this was
So is it gonna be extremely rude if I tell her to switch to?
available.
Still.
I would just,
This was with, so not, I was doing it with that couple from Compass. This
it's up to you, you're the boss.
guy who owns
It's up to you.
at the KW office.
Already took
US. He came to that other office I had been doing and I connected with him. This one was super slow. And the only people that came in, one woman came in, she just like walked through and left. And then the other one was the developer's daughter. I mean, and to like, look at the property.
Okay, call Henry,
US.
call Henry.
Well, Andrea, but I'm like, I said, I'm
No,
like,
call Henry, and say I specifically asked for you.
Check the hook.
Or call me like,
Yeah.
am I creating like a?
No.
So it's like, it's.
call you, you asked for her.
It's like SaaS, so I
Hey, Paul.
guess. So I guess, or however you say it.
They told me specifically.
But I connected with her because one of the guys posted in our group WhatsApp. He knew a woman who like needed help. Okay, so she said, we thought he was speaking. I'll do the 45-minute drive. I like the valley. I've been interested in it, like, if I live closer to it. And like Abe and I have talked about if we stay in SoCal, like for sure. We've considered, like, we'd be happier like, out of LA a little bit. And more in the valley, public schools are better and a little bit cheaper. Or more like suburban and family, and I'd be happy over there too. So it's like, yeah, I guess.
So
I would like-
let's just talk about the buyer process because that's what this class is titled, buyer process. Hello. So I think your buyers are always gonna have the same questions. And we're always gonna have similar answers. We are doing the same thing over and over and over again. But every situation is different because every buyer is different, every seller is different. Yes, Richard?
Did you know that the schools set the interest rates today?
Yes.
Okay.
Are they?
Well, I don't know yet.
They better.
Madeline.
Yes.
So, just regarding interest rates, they should be going down a lot over the course of the year and hopefully
Yeah.
beginning of next year. I hope so. That's always good for us. But no one should wait to buy a house based on interest rates. Okay, my spiel real quick for any buyer who's on the fence and waiting is if you see a property that you love, buy it. Because if you're waiting for things to change in the world, you're gonna lose the opportunity to buy the house you love. Buy the house you love. If interest rates go down, you can refinance. If interest rates go up, you'll be happy that you got the loan today that you got. Are more things gonna come on the market? They're not gonna come on the market. You know, we don't know, we can't predict, but when you find the house that you like, buy it. That's where you're living. So don't wait for any external activity that we have no control over. Yeah.
I had an open house and this guy came in and was asking how many offers there's been and said that he doesn't like to compete.
Oh,
What to say to that? I don't know what to say.
so, right, so there are buyers that will come into a house and they will say, I don't want to compete with other offers. I don't want to be in a multiple offer. Just give me the number and I'll buy it. Give me the number. So that's are we able to give them a number? That's the question. So if you have a buyer at an open house saying that, you know, there should be a question raised to the seller. Is there a number that you would accept today without going through the more showings and multiple? Like, is there a number you would be happy to accept today? So I can tell you personally, I have one property, I've gotten deals by asking that question. So there was a listing, there was a listing that came up in Beverlywood, for example, that I don't something. I don't duplicate. Look at.
All right.
So there was a listing that came up in Beverlywood on a Tuesday, and it said first showing Sunday. And it was an amazing price, and it was an amazing property. And I called the listing agent and I said, if I wrote you an offer today way over asking, would the seller consider accepting it? And he said, what is way over asking? I said, I'll get right back to him. I called my client. I said, what number do you want to offer? We have to be way over asking in order to prevent this process of, right, showings and open houses and multiples. What number will you take the property off the market? What's your highest number? And I called the agent back and I gave him the number because I put it in writing. And we got into a deal before. So the court, just because you see in the MLS offers due by a certain time, right? A certain day, the seller always has the power to do whatever they want.
What made you decide the deal was so good?
What made me
What made you decide that it was a great deal?
that it was a great deal? When you are looking in an area, and you see properties coming on the market, selling, and then it's just like when I'm talking to a seller, what I tell them. When you see a really pretty property at a great price come on, that's the one you click on. Right. So if you're concentrating on an area and you see things coming on the market all the time, and certainly you look at the property, look at the price, look at the property, look at the price.
You're familiar with that?
And you're familiar with the area, because then when you see a nice property and the price is good, you click on that one and you start researching, what is this? And you start looking at pictures. Right. So I tell a seller when I'm at a listing appointment, I'll say to a seller, pricing is important. The price, all sellers want to list high and leave room for negotiation. That is not the way to get the most money. The way to get the most money is to put a price where everyone's going to get excited And they're gonna come in and write an offer. And then we need 2 people to love this property. If we can get 2 people that love it, they're gonna fight with each other. And to get, that's how we get the price up. So, right, it's like an auction. So when I'm sitting with a seller and I'm telling them what's gonna happen, I'm gonna put your property in the MLS. And there are agents that have set up automatic emails to their clients. That as soon as the property hits the MLS, it gets automatically emailed from the MLS to their client. So there are buyers everywhere that are getting these emails coming to them. And they're getting tons of email, right? Obviously, how much email do you get every day? And you're gonna see a new email, new listing, and it's gonna come in your email and it's gonna be a picture of your house for the price. Is that gonna make you click on it? Right? So pretend you're a buyer and your house comes to you. What price are you gonna click, right? So that's the thing, is because we don't want to lose someone's attention. We want to get them excited. That's the talk I'm gonna have about.
In your professional opinion, what for property, what percentage overpriced would you consider way overpriced? What percentage would that, in your opinion?
So we have a chart in Keller Williams talking about pricing and the amount of people that will come into the property.
Yeah.
So I would say if you're 10% over, you're gonna lose probably 30% of your buyers by being 10%.
I'm saying if your buyer is willing to offer way overpriced.
So good question. No matter what an asking price is on a
Yeah.
property, we don't know how the agent or the seller arrived at that
Yeah.
number. So we have to do comps.
But I'm saying if your buyer is saying that he or she is willing to go way overpriced.
Right, but they're willing to go way overpriced depending on the comps.
Okay.
So, right, because buyers are looking at comps. The people who really know the most what the property is worth are the buyers.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones going every day looking at property. Should I buy this? Should I buy that? The buyers are the most important.
Okay, like 10% overpriced, 15%.
I mean, just we'll know right away. So I tell agents, when you put your listing in the MLS,
Yeah.
if you don't get calls right away, like in the first day or two, if there's no calls, radio silence, you're overpriced.
Okay.
Just how it is. Like, if you put a listing in the MLS and it's priced right, your phone is gonna start ringing. Agents are gonna be calling you, when can I get my client into your property? Buyers are gonna be calling you directly, how can I see the property? So when you have a well-priced listing, you have tons of activity on house.
How do you determine what, when you do your comp, how do you determine that it's not 10% over what it should be?
So apples to apples. Just apples to apples. I'm really trying to
Do
find.
you mainly focus on square footage or?
I focus on everything. I'm a really deep researcher. And I look at everything. I'm looking at location mostly, like, and when I'm doing my comps. So if I'm comping a house across the street from a school, I'm only gonna use comps across the street from a school. Right? If I have a house that's for sale on a street that has multifamily also, that's gonna be worth less than a house that's on a street with just single family house.
Mhm.
So if I have a house that's behind, there's an apartment building behind the house and multiple apartments can look into the backyard. I only want to use comps that are similar, that have.
Okay, so you look for exactly the same.
Close as I can get, because that's what a comp is. It's comparable.
Okay.
It's really important.
Okay, it's what's important?
Condition,
Condition.
I see a lot of properties
Right, so-
where
okay.
I'm priced all based on location.
Uh-huh.
I just saw one listed for almost 3 million. That's a complete gut. And they're saying strictly based on where it is located in the town, it makes it worth that price when it
Okay.
doesn't.
You believe it? You don't?
No, not even sort of. It also needs a complete gut. It's a desirable part of the county because like I grew up there, but it's higher than every other home that's listed in the area. And those are homes that are renovated, move-in ready, look nice, same neighborhood.
If you guys are ever working in an area that you're not that familiar with, call a KW agent in that area that just sold something. Just,
How do you find a KW?
yeah, you just look in the MLS and go on recent sold and see if you can find a KW agent
Oh,
and call the agents. Hey, congratulations on your sale. I have a buyer looking in that area. Do you have anything pocket? Okay, great. Please let me know if you do. By the way, Can you just give me a brief scenario of the area, like where I should be looking, what north of what, south of what, east, west? And that agent, just let them talk. They're gonna prove to you how much they know about that area. Okay? Just let them talk, and then you're gonna be an expert after you talk, after you hear. Right? So,
I hope that you'll buy one of their properties.
but that's how, like, if someone says to me, you know, can I sell in Sacramento? Say, sure, you know, I'm gonna hire the local Sacramento agent. And I can say, well, I could be an expert in Sacramento in 5 minutes. Right? Let me talk to 2 KW agents in the area. I'll know exactly everything I need to know.
Smart.
So if you guys ever know anyone looking in San Francisco, I'm an expert up there already.
You're my San Francisco referral agent.
Yeah, then you got San Francisco and Marin.
Now, that's your niche here in LA.
Yeah.
You should be promoting that you're the San Francisco referral agent to everyone here.
Or the Bay Area.
The whole Bay Area, 100%. Like, people should know that if they have a client that's looking up there, that should be, you're the. I'm 100% serious.
Yeah.
If I will identify different agents as having a certain niche. So like, there's an agent in our office that, Michael Eisenberg. I identify him with tennis court properties. If I have a client looking for a tennis court property, I'm gonna go to Michael Eisenberg. Like, it's just in my brain. If I have a client looking for land or a land question, right, I'm gonna go to the land man who's in our office. So, you know, if you can identify a niche and tell other agents about that, that's what you're focusing on, they're gonna come to you. They're gonna refer clients to you.
JJ.
Yeah.
If a property is listed high and then
That's the worst.
and then they,
I just want to tell you, all problems in listings start with a high price.
but then they lower.
So it's the kiss of death. Like,
Let's say they reduce the price.
there's 2 things that you don't want. More than 2 things, but the number 1, 2 things, a high price listing
Mhm.
and the seller present at an open house. Those are the 2, right? Because the seller is just gonna be like, you didn't tell them about that. You didn't tell them about that. Why didn't you tell them about that? You let them walk out the door. You can't do anything right with the seller looking over your shoulder at an open house. Forget it.
It was an open house and there was cameras inside and the agent told me, be very careful what you're saying.
You gotta be very careful.
The agent was very mean.
Very careful. My wife doesn't have a filter.
Thank you so much.
Like, I can bring her in
Then
the
lose
property
papers when I-
and there's and I'll be like, do not say anything when we're walking this house, please. She's just unfiltered. So
But if the price was reduced,
you would like her. Just lay it on the table.
I love it.
but if the price was reduced in buyer's eye, does it look more not attractive no more? Oh, so they couldn't sell the property, so they reduced the price. Does it look like that?
I understand that there are so many different types of sellers, right? There are sellers that will say, let's list it really high, and in 1 week, we're gonna reduce it, because I want to give the appearance that they're getting a deal.
Yeah,
There are
a lot of
very-
sellers think that, yeah.
So look, you guys are gonna have to, deal with each seller individually. Every seller is different. You just know in your hearts that you want to get the best price you can. Now, a seller is thinking, you just want to sell. That's all you care about is the sale.
Yeah.
But but what you are trying to accomplish is 2 people liking the house at the same time. Once you get 2 people that want the house, they're bidding against each other. That's what you want. Well, I don't just want 1 buyer, I want 2. Now, if you're talking about an architectural house, that's gonna take longer to sell. You're looking for a certain person that's buying the house as a piece of art, not as like an actual live-in kind of property. That's different. That's gonna have a high price. That's gonna take longer to sell. You're looking for a specific buyer. I get it. On those kind of listings, try to get a 1-year listing. Don't go a short listing, maybe even longer.
If what?
There are some architectural houses. Some architectural houses, they're like pieces of art. There's gonna be a higher price tag on them, but you're talking about a very narrow market of appeal. So those kind of listings, I would recommend just having a long listing on. Because if the seller starts to get itchy, you can reduce the price. You have time,
Oh, I see.
right?
How
So
long is a long listing?
I would say, I would say a year is a nice long
And
listing.
you,
That year goes fast though.
Since you want 2 people to compete, what if you tell one of your buyers, you make up a person? They're like, well, the other people want this and I don't know, you gotta raise your bid a little bit. Is that legal? Because what if they find out that,
So there are ways to say things that you're not doing anything wrong. There are ways to say it. So if you call me and say, JJ, do you have any offers on this property? Right, I'm gonna say nothing in hand yet, but I'm talking to buyers that are talking about right. I have buyers hovering right now, second showing, third showing, get your offer. I didn't tell you I have an offer, right? I'm not saying.
Yeah, when people come in, like, how do you get them like excited about it? 'Cause
They have to get,
one
you
person-
have to create excitement, you have to create.
They say like, oh, other people other people come and seen the property, are they?
If you like this property, get your offer in quickly, because there are other people that are looking.
because people like what they can't have.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so you just
I like
create,
what I can have.
I love what I can.
If I can have it, I don't
Yeah.
desire it.
exactly, so you have to
Can you
create.
get in trouble if you have like an architectural or a historical home and you are? Like, is there a way for you to kind of ensure that without doing something illegal, that the person who is buying it is not planning to completely destroy it?
Like Kanye West did with the,
Yeah, stuff like that. Is there a way for you to not vet people? Cause I know that like gets,
So what I think I'm hearing is that your seller only wants to sell to someone who's not gonna destroy the property.
right,
yeah, like.
Is that what I'm?
I might
like,
tear
you
it down.
A seller with
Got
a
it.
historical home that they don't
So-
want changed.
So the
Or
the only thing that would prevent someone from tearing a house down is being in an HPOZ, in a historical preservation zone. That's a historical preservation ordinance zone, HPOZ. Hancock Park, for instance, is an HPOZ. West Adams District, there are areas HPOZ. You can't just go and tear down a house. Like those are preserved. But an architectural house, not in a preservation zone, the buyer's swearing up and down, they want to restore it to its original splendor,
Yeah.
and then they come in and tear it down. Do you have liability for that? No.
Is there like a way that you can register a home to be a historical home?
Yes.
Or is that really different?
Yes. You would actually go to the historical registry and apply.
That works?
And apply. But by doing that, you might be decreasing the value.
Yeah, but I mean, like if your seller cares enough to not
Sellers,
have,
they could try to get into the.
Yeah. it's like if I.
You said you're
home, that's
decreasing the value?
Be decreasing the desirability. Because now you've limited. So, okay, so, we're just talking about it. If a buyer is going to buy a property to tear down and build, the first thing that goes to the city is historical check. That's the first thing that happens. Is this a historically important property? Are the architects or the builders historically important? So there are a lot of famous architects and builders that the historical department, it's kind of like they can say yes or no. We're gonna let you tear this down or not.
More famous people used to live there, like Marilyn Monroe or,
Oh, I can't believe they tore her house down though.
yeah.
So I don't think that I don't know. I don't know how wide their governance reaches. Yeah, Lucille Ball's home. Would you
Yeah.
tear that down?
No, I wouldn't.
You wouldn't.
Someone might.
But somebody.
Right. So you know what? When I first got into real estate,
It's Paul Williams' home, isn't it?
Yeah.
You
when I
know,
first got into real estate, I was walking into houses that had Art Deco bathrooms.
Love.
And I was walking into houses thinking, ugh, this mustard, why haven't they redone this mustard bathroom or this pink bathroom or this mint green bathroom? Why haven't they renovated this bathroom? And then I started appreciating them because the more I would see, the less I would see. Like I'm starting to go into thousands of properties and only a few have this left. Then you're valuing it. Wow, they left it. Like this is, and then you start to appreciate it, right? And then the more intricate, you really appreciate those,
A modern home.
Do you mind going over how to fill out the buyer's agreement?
All right, so now we're talking to a buyer. Yeah, we're gonna get to the buyer's agreement. So let's just talk about the process. So process is you want to pick up a buyer who's ready to buy, able to buy, willing to buy, all of those. So we need to question them, like, how long have you been looking? What do I need to show you today that you would write a check for today? That's a buyer. And if they're not willing to buy something today, when? 3 weeks from now, 6 weeks from now, 6 months from now. So I need to know that. Okay, so let's just look at this questionnaire real quick. All right, so we need their name. Now, I got this from an agent in Colorado that keeps a stack of these in her drawer at her desk. So she has a ton of listings and buyers drive down the street and they call her on her sign. And they're like, I just drove by such and such address. Can you tell me about the property? Now, she knows that the buyer who's calling on that sign is probably not going to buy that property, right? So this is her lead capture form. And she gives them a needs analysis, or she'll invite them into the office to discuss it. And this is what she's pulling out. So she's making sure that she has their contact names, phone numbers, email, where they currently live. What are the best times for them to view a property? When you guys have a listing and a sign and you're getting a call, you have to be prepared for the call that comes in to want to ask you a specific question, like how much is it, and hang up. You don't want to lose that lead, right? You want to keep them on the phone. So when they call you, say, hi, how much is the property and such, say, hi, how you doing? What's your name? Great. If it says no caller ID on your phone, can I get your phone number real quick in case we get disconnected? So just make sure that before you start giving information, you're able to contact this person.
Can you sign a buyer's agreement with them at an open house?
Sure. I will buy you a cupcake if we can do that. I mean, that's amazing. If you can do that, it's amazing.
I mean, I've never filled one out, so I'm just saying,
Amazing,
is
yeah.
that something that's
So,
awesome?
We'll talk about it because we have a buyer agreement.
They barely signed what she's.
Right, so they have to sign something. But if you can get them to become your buyer on the spot at an open house, I'm applauding. It's good. It's good. For sure. If you hone that skill, you'll be able to do that. All right. What are the best days and time for you to view? I'm probably going to be saying to them, Tuesday we have broker open house. Are you available Tuesdays? Are you available Sundays? Because then we can see a bunch of properties on the same day easily. That would be great. Are you a first-time home buyer? How was your experience when you bought that property? Now that you're willing to do it all over again, what did you like about your experience? What did you not like about your experience? All right. Who is the purchase decision maker? Who's the decision maker? This is probably the most important question. If you're talking to a husband and wife, one of them is the decision maker. Like it could be the wife, it could be the husband. There's different dynamics in every relationship. I want to know who the decision maker is. Right. Also, what's important is if you're finding out that the parent is the one putting the money into the purchase, that's your client. Parent. You need to involve the parent in your purchase process. The danger is that if you don't, and you're dealing with the 60-year-old child, you're going to be taking them out to all these different properties. They're going to find the property that's perfect after all this time.
And then the parents
And
said,
the parent says, "Oh, let me call my agent and talk to them." So they're the ones with the money. So my suggestion is find out where the money's coming from. I'll obviously get them in touch with the lender. But if the parent is the one buying it, I would be emailing the parent every single property from the MLS that you're going to see and keeping in touch with them. We're going to see this property today. We're going to see that property tomorrow. Keep them involved. Okay. When would you like to buy or sell? So here we're ascertaining timing. Right now,
If they say, I don't know.
I don't know, then what are you doing here? Like, why did they come? Why
I'm
did they
just
come in?
looking.
Why did
I'm
they
just
come?
looking right.
Okay, why?
I want to find something that really,
I have a friend that is such a nosy neighbor. Like he has to go in every open house in his neighborhood. Like that's just who he is. It's in his DNA.
Yeah.
He has FOMO. He has every house. He's not buying anything. He's not buying anything. There are people like that.
he's just nosy.
He's nosy.
I'm just thinking like I'm the kind of person like,
I'd be like that.
I notice like for myself, it's hard to make a decision. I'm myself, I'm looking for an apartment. I've been looking and
Yeah. So you
And I don't
really
stop.
have
what if
to-
I get someone like that?
you have to size them up really quick because you only have your time.
Hmm.
Right. So
So how would you size them up? Because
have you talked to a lender?
I haven't yet.
Okay, what's stopping you?
Right.
I'm looking for the right home.
Great. let's say I showed you, let's say I showed you that right home today.
Okay,
There's offers that other people are gonna think that's also the right home. They're gonna be putting in their offers today and you're not ready to do that,
okay,
because you haven't talked to a lender yet.
okay, so Sam.
Can I put you in touch with my lender?
Yes,
So I'm always saying, what's the next step? What's the next step?
okay, so see, that was good.
I'm gonna keep advancing them to the next step, where I'm always waiting for them.
I see.
What's the next step? So the next step is they have to talk.
So you think with practice, we'll learn how to advance?
Oh, 100%. Because you're doing the same thing every day. I mean, you're dealing with buyers, you're dealing with sellers.
Okay,
It's the same thing.
yeah, cause I like how you did that.
That's the same process.
JJ,
It's like guidance.
well, because I mostly work with Turkish buyers so far,
Okay.
and oh my God, they're such disasters. I'm Turkish, so.
You can say that about anybody. You can say about anybody. 'Cause you know,
No, what I'm asking is that because everyone wants some deal, an opportunity.
Every
This is
buyer-
an opportunity.
every buyer wants a deal, every seller wants the most money.
So they're not really ready, or they haven't been pre-approved anything. They already have money. I know like some of them that I have been meeting, but they want deal. Like one of them wants right now a big land in Laguna Beach that will have a ocean view. And he's like, it can be a tear down, it can be a fixer. I don't mind, because whatever home you show me, I'm not gonna like it because I want to build it myself.
So showing property. And show them exactly what they want. And they're gonna see the price on it, and either they can afford it or not.
There is no property in this price. 1 to 2 million, Laguna Beach, ocean view, and land.
So show them a property higher than they can afford.
Hmm.
Dangerous. Show them a property higher than they can afford and say, this is what you're telling me that you want. This is it, and this is how much it costs. And just show them, say, look, you know what, they might have the money. They're not telling,
Basically, you humble them.
you're gonna show them, this is what you're asking me to show you. This is how much it costs to get what you're asking.
Just have them sign.
You have to show, yeah, have them sign, exactly, have them sign first. You have to show it to them, bring
What
them.
if, what if you get like a client that says, hey, I want something in Hollywood with crazy views, city views. And I want it to have an open layout. I send it to him and then he says, no, it's not modern
Okay.
enough,
Okay,
but they were modern. Would you like go and now look for modern?
I would first, I'm gonna try to
Cause I'm,
isolate the modern part and say, what is modern? Can you send me a property that you,
cause right now they're living in a home that they built ground up. So I don't know what,
okay,
Ask him
I would
what,
determine what's
what's the price range?
3 or 4. I went on the MLS and actually called.
Ask them what?
ask him what's not modern about,
Not modern, yeah, you wanna find out why they're saying that,
like, what is it?
and can it be fixed?
Okay. Would you show them the properties and then ask them?
It's up to you,
Because I'm the kind of person I'll like
it's up to you,
ask a lot of questions, but I'm worried that I'm gonna get run around, like,
I don't know, I mean, if I have a buyer, I'm gonna try to sell them something, right? I'm gonna try to bring them what they're looking for, so if I can't, but I'm gonna try.
okay.
Are you comfortable, okay, with pricing? So I'm gonna let the lender do the dirty work on the dollar amount.
Okay.
If they're looking for a condominium, do they care what the association dues are? Like there are properties that have doormen. Are they willing to spend more per month for a doorman?
In New York,
In New York,
Yeah.
yeah. In LA, what's the point?
It's a conversation you have to have, like,
we gotta get into.
there are people that'll buy a condo, like they have to have a doorman. Or they have to have earthquake insurance, like, I don't know, so.
So you would ask any client, do you need a doorman?
If you're talking to someone who's interested in a condominium, you should be asking.
Oh, okay.
Is there a number of,
Packages.
for the monthly HOA dues that you don't want to exceed,
Okay,
right? What if it had a doorman? Are you willing to pay more for that?
okay.
So those are the questions.
They say how much more?
Yes, these are really important questions. What's the minimum square footage you need? How many bedrooms minimum? Right, bathrooms. Whenever we talk about bathrooms, I think it's very important that's my personal opinion. I think it's really important to have a 1.5 bath. You want that extra half bath for guests, because if you only have one bathroom, your guests are using your bathroom.
Exactly.
It's a conversation.
Walking with outdoor shoes in the house and.
It's a conversation that should be had. Like, are you comfortable with your guests using your bathroom? And it could be, you could have a client that never has guests, so they
You
don't.
need a powder room. You need a
I
powder.
think you need powder. Yeah, it should have powder. I mean, personally.
Yeah, I think those are great questions.
Yeah, just these are just things to talk about. What about a formal dining room? You might have a client that has to, they entertain.
For the kids.
So you just want to have these conversations. Do you have any other special requirements? Okay, now we're gonna talk about property condition. Are you open, do you only want brand new? Do you want something that's move-in ready? Are you willing to do some work? How much work? Are you willing to expand? Like, how much are you really willing to do? If you want something that's move-in ready, bring your toothbrush. Right, bring your bag, bring your toothbrush, and you can immediately, so there are properties like that. This is the conversation. Now, just because a client's telling you something, doesn't mean they're not gonna, but they could tell you one, Beverly Hills, architectural, move-in ready. And then they go buy in Studio City, farmhouse, fixer, like,
Yeah.
be very careful on your buyer rep agreement. On your description of what it's covering. You don't wanna be so narrow that
You have to say, oh, they want a brand new house or modern house, or can you just say,
We'll look at it in a second. I just want you to be careful filling it out, so you don't want to exclude yourself.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the upper, so. Yeah, these are great questions. All right. Let's look at this. This is the process. So a buyer is always gonna want to know when is their money at risk? That's a very important question to a buyer. What's my risk? Buyer has no risk until they remove all of their contingencies. What's a contingency? Contingency is an excuse to back out of a contract without losing your money. Okay, what are the contingencies? You have a loan contingency, an appraisal contingency, and an investigation contingency, pre-contingency. So if you get into a contract and you start researching, investigating, inspectors, and there's things that you are finding out about the property, anything that you don't like, you can back out and not lose your money. The lender has to be able to make the loan, right? So there's gonna be amount of time that the lender has to qualify you and the property. And they're gonna send an appraiser to appraise the property. So any of those three things, it doesn't appraise, the loan can't be made, or you don't like anything that you found out, you can back out for all those reasons and not lose your mind.
Have you heard anyone lost their earnest money?
Recently, I was in a deal, fortunately, with a buyer that we did all the inspections and he removed all of his contingencies. And 3 days before closing, he said to me, JJ, I want to back out and I'm okay losing all my money.
how much did you lose?
I negotiated half.
Oh, that's good at least. How much was the whole amount?
Whatever it was. So I think it was like 60,000. He lost 30,
Oh,
but he was okay. He was okay. He could afford the loss.
Can you be okay with it?
Yeah, with it, because
I mean, at least you got half
it's
of
something
it.
that wasn't for him after all that. And, you know, but you know what? I'm chickening out. Yeah, but
Can you get some of that 30,000?
no, but I didn't just say, okay, you're forfeiting everything. I fought for half. And I got the seller to agree to only keep half.
That's really.
Now, there have to be damages. Don't forget, there have to be damages. So, all right, we'll talk about that. All right,
What do you mean there has to be damages?
damages.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just back out.
There have to be damages, meaning, here's what that means. If you make an offer on a property for $1 million. And you back out after you remove contingency. Seller puts the property back on the market and sells for $1 million. Did they have any damages? No, right? Same price. They lost maybe a month of time with the damages. I don't know. So they didn't really have damages. So I've investigated, I've tried to find cases where a judge has awarded the deposit to a seller. Judges don't like to give money to sellers like that unless there are damages. Now, if the seller decides to take the property off the market and not resell it, then they're probably entitled to it.
That was,
Because, huh?
wouldn't that still be their voluntary choice to now decide they don't want to sell it?
But they could, but there are damages now because the agreement or the original agreement was if they don't complete the deal and their remove contingencies, they'll lose their deposit.
Oh,
So Now,
I'm forgetting about the contingency.
yeah, they removed their contingency.
Wait, there wouldn't be a damage to the seller, that would be damage to the buyer. The year removes.
So, okay, so we're talking about the buyer process. This is the buyer process. Great conversation. Okay. The buyer is putting their 3% deposit into escrow, 3%.
Right.
And now the seller, basically the seller is saying, I agree to accept your $1 million offer and I agree to your 30-day close. I agree with all of that.
Okay.
Me, as the seller, I'm telling you, buyer, you need to remove all your contingencies in 17 days because I need time to move out. Right? So I'm not moving out until you remove your contingencies. Because if I start moving out and you haven't removed your contingencies, I've now moved all my stuff out of the house. I've paid the movers. I've signed a new lease somewhere, or I've already bought a new house that I'm going to. And you back out and you get all your money back. Who just got really hurt? Me. So the reason that there are contingency periods in the contract is to also protect the seller, because I need to know you're moving forward on this deal.
I see.
So you're writing an offer to me for $1 million. I'm accepting it. I will sell my property for $1 million as long as you do what you need to do as the buyer. What does the buyer need to do? They need to put their deposit into escrow within 3 business days.
Once the offer is accepted.
So all dates calculate from the day of acceptance. Day of acceptance is the day we're talking about. It doesn't matter when the offer was written. It doesn't matter when escrow opens. All days are calculated from the day of acceptance. That's the most important part. We can open escrow 5 days before closing. Right, so that it doesn't matter. So it's all calculated from the day of acceptance. All days are calendar days except for deposit. Deposit and business days, because you can't make a deposit on a non-business day. Right? So now, if the deposit, you have 3 days to make your deposit. So today is Wednesday. If you had an accepted offer today, when is the money due in escrow?
Monday.
Monday, Thursday, Friday, Monday. Now, if Monday's a holiday, it pushes to Tuesday. Okay. All right.
So if you don't make the payment on Tuesday, you lose the deal?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say the buyer doesn't make the deposit on Monday or Tuesday. Now what?
You get fined.
The seller can't cancel yet.
They have a grace
The
period.
seller is now going to give something called a notice to perform to the buyer. And the notice is going to be signed by the seller, and it's going to say, I'm giving you a notice to perform your part of the contract, which was making your deposit. Now that gives the buyer 2 additional days to make the deposit. If the buyer does not make the deposit in those 2 additional days, on day 3, after giving the notice, the seller now has the right to cancel. Doesn't mean that anything cancels. The seller now has the right to
But
cancel.
if the seller cancels, would you lose your deposit?
No,
Would
you
you?
never put in an escrow.
I mean, didn't you put like the 3%?
And it's not an escrow yet. We just gave a scenario
There was no money down.
yet.
Oh, I see, okay.
So the seller now gives a notice to put the money in. 3 days after that notice is given, if the buyer did not put their money in, seller can cancel.
And then
And that's it.
that 17 days contingency period starts after that.
Now we have 3 contingencies. So we have loan, appraisal, and investigation. Those by default are 17 days after acceptance. Okay, the day of acceptance is day 0.
So that 3 days.
Here is day 1, goes 17.
What was that 3 contingency?
Loan, appraisal, and investigation. Now, the buyer,
Inspection.
so inspections are actual inspectors coming to the property. Investigation is everything. Like, it's more than just inspections. It's investigating the whole property. Because I can back out on something I found out about the neighbor.
Oh, really?
That wasn't an inspection. That's part of my investigation.
Just why didn't you make?
I can back out for any
That's
reason.
why they don't disclose stuff like that. Like their apartment has a flea market. If they don't tell that to people
Oh,
trying to move in every weekend because they know they wouldn't get.
They just say it's their current.
You say one more time, sorry.
They don't say anything about it every weekend, just.
yes. Yeah, this is very important that you can explain this to your buyers.
But it's
This is what your buyers want to hear from you.
Right.
not
how this-
market.
how this works.
Swappy.
You're gonna make an offer, right? As a buyer, you're gonna make an offer.
For streets.
once we reach a deal, so what's gonna happen? You're gonna make your offer. The seller now has three things that they can either do as a seller. They can accept your offer, they can reject your offer, or they can counter your offer. Those are the three things the seller can do. So let's just say we get an accepted offer. Okay. Once the offer is accepted, you now have 3 business days to get your deposit into escrow. Now, deposits are usually 3%. That's when we write our offer for $1 million, it's gonna be 30,000 as the deposit. When we get a counter offer from the seller for, say, 1.1, if the seller didn't put in their counter deposit to be 3%, the deposit will remain at 30,000. Just so you know, that does not automatically adjust. Deposits do not automatically adjust. Me as a listing agent, when I write a counter offer, the second part of my counter offer is deposit to be 3% of purchase price. Because I want to make sure that there's 3% in escrow. Why do I want to make sure there's 3% escrow? Because that's the liquidated damages clause. How much the seller gets to keep. Seller can keep what's in escrow, the buyer defaults on their deal, not to exceed 3%.
Seller can, if buyer paid 5%, seller cannot
Well,
keep.
yeah, if the buyer put 10% in escrow or all their money in escrow.
Hmm.
But then they back out a day before closing and they removed all their contingencies, the maximum the seller can keep is 3%.
I wouldn't put that much money also too, right?
Well, the buyer will put the money in right before closing, because they're putting that money into close escrow. So let's say something happens the day before closing or 2 days before closing, right? So, okay, so here's the process. Buyer writes an offer. They have 3 business days to put their deposit into escrow. Now, you have to have this conversation with your buyer because that money needs to be ready. If that money is in the stock market and they have to sell some stock, there's like 5 days there before they're gonna see that money. So, right? So this is a conversation that has to happen. All right, now we have our investigation period. So we have 17 days by default. We might have shortened those to get the deal. The seller might have said, I can't give you 17 days, I need 10 days, I'm gonna give you 10. Right, we have competing offers here. Who's gonna remove contingencies in the shortest amount of time? Right, if I'm really aggressive on a deal, I'm gonna tell a seller, I'm gonna offer you $1 million, but I'll make up my mind in 3 days. Give me 3 days to inspect and I'll remove all my contingencies in 3 days. That's a really powerful offer.
3 versus 17, that,
Yeah, the seller's like, they're gonna know that they're in a deal, right? So that's pretty solid for a seller.
which means you're gonna
Say you're gonna
be
do
done with
that.
all these things in 3 days?
3 days. I'm just giving that as an example, how to make your offer stronger. But one of the ways to make your offer stronger is to shorten your contingency periods. Because then you're not tying up a seller, because the seller doesn't know if the buyer is doing the deal until contingencies are removed. Right, because they have nothing to risk.
But also some sellers might prefer longer contingency period.
They might,
because they may need that.
prefer a longer escrow period, but not a longer contingency period,
Oh,
right? You might have a seller that wants 45 days or 60 days to close. I would always push for a faster close and let the seller lease back. I want to get paid as fast as possible.
What did,
But also when you give time in escrow, things can blow up.
People start thinking about stuff.
Blow up.
Yeah.
Like a better property comes on the market. What if we're in escrow for $1 million? My buyer can lose 30,000, but an amazing property just came on the market for 900 that they like better. They're happy to lose their 30,000 and go buy the 900, right?
that's how I think.
Okay, so
Oh my God.
I want to have a short escrow. Let's get the.
How long would you do your escrows generally?
I mean, typical escrows are 30 days, typical 30 to 45 days. That's typical. Yeah.
What do you say about roaming that we should tell our clients?
So when you're representing a buyer,
Yeah.
your goal is to win the deal. Win the deal. If you don't get your offer accepted, you have nothing. So don't feel as a buyer's agent that your job is to get your buyer the best price. Your job is not to get your buyer the best price. Your job is to get them the property. Okay? If you don't get them the property, you didn't do anything for them. So for yourself, right? But our job is to win the property for the buyer. It's up to the buyer to decide what their highest price is that they're willing to go. So when I'm talking to a buyer, And we write an offer on something and a counter comes back and it says purchase price to be buyer's highest and best. Oh, man. Now they're getting all the buyers to compete to come up with their highest number. How am I gonna get my buyer to their highest number? So I'm gonna say to my buyer, the listing agent is not giving me any information. They're not giving anyone any information. They want everyone to come up with their highest number. I've tried everything I can to get a number out of the agent. I can't get a number. We need to put our best price here. If you lost this property for $1,050,000, would you be upset? Yeah, be upset. If you lost the property for $1,075,000, would you be upset? I'm pushing to see the number that they won't go past.
But is it legal for us to like call the listing agent?
Yeah.
Like, hey, what
course.
number would the seller accept?
Call me, JJ, what's it get this deal?
Really?
Call me. JJ, where do I need to be to get this?
Okay,
I'm gonna say, everyone's calling me, asking me the same question,
okay.
right? All I can say is put your best number in terms of.
Can I say like, give me a number? What is the seller accepting? Like, let's say the seller says, you know what, if this.
So offers are due at 5 p.m. Even if I were to give you a number right now, I don't know where other people are gonna come back at before 5 p.m.
But can I?
Even if I knew, but I can't even.
No, I'm just curious, if you're the listing agent,
Yeah,
right,
listing
and you know, like, the house is going for 1.5.
Yeah.
But the seller said, you know what, if you get something for 1.25, I'll sell.
Okay,
Can you tell me that? If
as long as the seller gives me permission to say that.
Okay, so the seller has to say, you can tell people. What does the seller have to say to you? Cause I wanna know, like, not. the
So
cost.
now, in the purchase agreement, it says offers are not confidential.
Okay.
So I, as the listing agent, have complete ability to discuss anything I want with you.
So you can even.
If you call me and say, JJ, what offers do you have on property? I can tell you, I have an offer from Angelina Jolie for 1.2, 5-day close. I can tell you everything.
Okay,
Now, as a negotiation strategy, I'm probably not gonna do that.
so what would you say to,
Negotiation.
right, so what would you say to me?
I'm saying, I have a really strong, solid offer that I don't think your buyer, that I'm not sure your buyer is gonna wanna compete with. The only way that your buyer will be able to compete with this is to go as high as they can, because right now, we're leaning towards someone else, just to be completely honest.
Okay,
You're really gonna have to reach for this one.
If you don't have offers, can you say I have offers?
yeah, can you say that line if you don't have any offers right now?
Yes.
If I don't have an offer in writing in my hand, I'm personally not gonna tell another agent that I do.
So what will you say if I say, hey,
I will
Well,
say,
I
I'm
think
expecting
that
offers,
helps.
I'm expecting some offers to come in.
I'm expecting some
I'm
offers
expecting offers.
and I would recommend you go as high as you can? What would you say?
Look, it could be 4 p.m. and it's 5, and offers are due at 5, and you're calling me saying, you know, where do I need to be? What does everyone else come in at? My answer to you at 4 p.m. is, everyone's waiting until the last second to respond. And I'm not giving any information at 5 p.m. So just put in your best.
How about if
My duty to my seller is always to get them the most money,
Okay,
always.
that's what I'm trying to.
Always. As a listing agent, I'm always gonna try to get my seller the most money. As a buyer's agent, you're trying to get your buyer the property. Now, there's something called an escalation clause.
Is that,
Talk about real quick. There's something called an escalation clause, which you can put in your contract as a buyer, and you can say, purchase price to be $5,000 higher than your next highest offer, but $5,000 higher than your highest offer, not to exceed.
what does that mean?
But you actually, I'm sorry. In order to have a valid enforceable contract in California, you need all the 5 elements of the contract. One of those elements is price. So you have to say purchase price to be $1,100,000 or $5,000 higher than your highest offer, not to exceed 1.2.
How do you know what it's not gonna exceed?
So, no, because I'm having that conversation with my buyer. So
Uh-huh.
my buyer doesn't want to just write 1.2.
Oh, I see,
They just want to beat out everyone else.
right,
So they're gonna say purchase price to be 1.1 or 5,000 higher than your highest offer, not to exceed 1.2. We have to put a cap on it. It can't just be higher than your highest offer. Then
what
what's
if the
2 million?
highest offer is 1.5?
No, ma'am.
Wow.
Okay, I see.
So-
There's a limit.
There's a limit.
How high?
No, wait, that's called an escalation clause.
But I have one question.
But wait,
Okay.
because if you're going to use an escalation clause, you better have the listing agent on board. The listing agent needs to know what you're doing. Because there are some listing agents out there that will think you're playing games. And there are sellers out there that will be upset that you're trying to game the system with an escalation clause. And they don't want you to do that. They want you to put your highest number in writing, not to be higher than the next person. Because if you have 3 different buyers and they're all writing escalation clauses, what are you gonna do, right? So you need to have the listing agent on board, I would recommend, because you could lose a deal just because you did that.
Oh, well.
Because the
You need their
seller-
permission for an act.
I think you should just have just feel out the listing agent. This is what my buyer wants to do. Just feel out the agent. Just feel out the agent. This is what my buyer wants to do, to see what their reaction is. Because if they start freaking out on you, say, no, we're not gonna do it. We're not gonna do it. We want this deal. We're not gonna do it.
Okay.
Because there are agents that will kill the deal for you.
Can you put on the residential purchase agreement, can you put like, let's say no, can you just put like my number is 1, 2, let's say? And then if other people put an offer for 1, 3, can I just put an offer? Like, do I have to change the residential purchase agreement? Or can I,
That would be done in the counter.
okay, so you can do that,
Of course.
okay.
I've had 10 I've had buyer counter offer number 10, which means there were 20 counter offers.
Oh my God,
JJ, if you have total of 5 offers on that
Yes.
picture right now,
Yeah.
can you tell the lower offers, hey, this is the most expensive, like the highest one I got, do you have a
Yes.
better offer than this?
Yes,
Is that how we,
you can do anything you want.
is that how we compete these buyers?
So you're gonna be in a situation where you're gonna have to try to get the most money for your seller. You're gonna have a buyer calling you and saying, where do I stand? Like, give me something. Am I lowest? Am I highest? Am I middle? Right? So, I mean, you can, depending on where they are, there's different strategies. So one strategy as a listing agent is if I have 5 offers, and let's just say I'm asking $1 million, I can expect there's gonna be a low ball offer. There's probably gonna be an at asking offer. And there's probably gonna be an above asking offer. Right? I'm probably going to give my lowest offer a high price. Not even tell them highest to best. I'm just gonna give them a high price to shoot for. And then my highest price offer, I'm gonna counter them highest and best. Because I wanna see how much higher they'll go, and I don't wanna lose them. Now, the buyer's agent might call me that was the highest and say, my buyer doesn't want to counter you. That was their best offer. My response to them is, okay, if that's your best offer, put it back in writing. So if I give a seller counter offer highest and best, it's now their turn to respond. So the buyer needs to give me a buyer counter offer 1 and say purchase price to be, even if it's the same number as in the original offer. Right? It's gonna be, you're just hitting the ball back and forth. So the buyer makes an offer, I have to hit the ball back with a seller counter offer 1. Then the buyer is gonna hit it back, buyer counter 1. I'm gonna hit it back, seller counter 2. They're gonna hit it back, buyer counter 2. It's always the other person's turn, right? That's how it goes. A good agent will keep the ball going.
How long it takes to write all these offers?
The first time I wrote an offer, it took me all day. The second time I wrote an offer, it took me half a day. The third time I wrote an offer, it took me all day again. Because so much time went by before I wrote that offer. Now I can write an offer in 20 minutes.
Wow.
That's because I'm doing it every day. I'm helping agents every day. I'm just familiar with the forms. I know every single thing to check, and
How many pages is enough?
it's right 17 pages right now. Plus 17 for the offer, plus there's additional pages. I think 32 pages offer.
And it used to be 1.
It used to be 1. Like,
my-
yeah, when I got into real estate, it was 8 pages, I think 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And people were saying, it used to be 1 page.
And-
It used to be 1 page. It used
About 60s, like,
to be 1 page. People would write offers on the back of car trunks outside of houses.
wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
I wanted 20 grand, perfect.
All right, so let's say, okay, so right now, can you explain to your buyer this is the scenario?
Yes, but I have a still question.
Okay.
You're 17 days down from 30 days. So the escrow period is 30 days. You said in 7
Okay, so we
days.
have a 30-day escrow. We have 30-day escrow. That means that the seller is gonna move out before closing and the buyer is gonna get the keys on day 30.
you pay the earnest money, contingency started, you're done with the loan appraisal investigation, which I have a lot of questions about appraisal.
Okay.
I don't know that right now. So you're done with the investigation as well? So
Yeah.
17 days past that.
17 days passes. Now, the buyer has to either remove contingencies or cancel the contract.
Okay.
Those are the two options. They're either gonna do the deal or not. So they're either gonna remove contingencies or they're gonna cancel. Now, here's what really happens. The buyer now has done their inspections and they're now aware of things that they were not previously aware of. Now they're found out that there's asbestos in the house and it's a hazard, has to get removed. They found out the house has termites the house needs to get tented, wood needs to get replaced.
When would you find out?
All during inspections, all during your inspection period.
So before,
You had a sewer inspector, we're gonna talk about inspections in a second, but now we're at day 17.
Can I-
We've done all the inspections.
Uh-huh.
We're gonna get there. So now it's the buyer's time to remove contingencies. The buyer is now gonna say to the seller, request. I'm gonna ask you for repairs. Or I'm gonna ask you for a credit, or I'm gonna ask you for a price reduction.
how would you determine how high to go for that?
So
Like you,
I'm basing the number that I'm asking for on all my inspections. Now, the seller does not have to agree to anything. The seller agreed to sell their property for $1 million as is and close in 30 days. The seller does not have to agree to anything. Now, why would the seller agree? Because the seller wants the deal to be over in a week, 2 weeks, right? So the buyer is basically saying, I've done my inspections. This is what I'm asking you for in order for me to remove my contingency. So I've done all my inspections. It's gonna cost me $20,000 to get this property in working, whatever. I'm asking you for the 20,000. If you agree to give the 20,000 price reduction or credit, then I will remove my contingencies. So it's a trade.
Mm.
And then it's up to the seller if they want to or not.
And if they don't, it gets canceled.
And if they don't, then the buyer says, okay, I tried. Am I willing to move forward at the full $1 million?
and if this buyer says no,
If the
Is
buyer
there-
says no, then you're
the
gonna.
seller, because now the,
Unfortunately, I mean, I hate cancellations.
no, I'm saying if the seller, if the buyer walks away, then the seller is kind of at a disadvantage. 'cause
Now,
there's-
now the seller has to disclose all the reports that were given to him.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yes, so the seller,
Question.
Yeah.
So if there is termites, let's say you're doing open house, and obviously you don't know that there is termites.
yeah, you better step on them, get rid of them quick.
You're gonna see that,
Huh?
you're gonna see that.
I don't know.
Quick,
When it's hot, the termites come out.
it's gross.
So then
I know.
when
I
you're,
don't want that.
When you're in a house and you're looking at the windowsill
yeah,
and you see these little black pellets on the windowsill, that's termite residue.
Yeah.
that's good to know,
Yeah.
About.
but I'm scared.
Most houses in California have termites. So we just have termites and this is a
So termite
termite.
means like there's like some kind
They're
of,
little bugs that eat wood. They eat wood. That's what they live on, wood.
They're like a bug beater.
they go in a.
So when you have a termite inspection, the termite inspector walks around with a pointy stick. And he jabs all the wood around the property. Because sometimes you think it looks like a wooden beam. It's just paint. Because all the wood inside has been eaten out. And he'll jab it and the poker will go right through.
Oh my god.
So
I've
it's
seen
okay.
how-
It's okay. It's just a piece of wood. It's a piece of wood. But you don't want the whole house eaten. Right?
I'm saying if I saw that, I think I'd get itchy and I'd like leave the house.
Okay, so we know basically what we're doing here. We're writing an offer. We have 3 business days to get our deposit in. We have by default 17 days for loan appraisal and investigations. And then we have to get the rest of our money in before closing, and the lender has to get their money in before closing. That's it. That's it.
What's the
So
rest of our amount, rest of our down
the
payment?
rest of the down payment. Yeah, so the difference between down payment and deposit. The down payment is the total amount of money that the buyer is bringing into the deal. A portion of the down payment will be the deposit that was originally given in the beginning of the deal. The deposits are usually 3%. Down payments are usually 20% or more. So that means 3% at the beginning, 17% before closing. Usually 20%. If a buyer is putting less than 20% down, they might have something called PMI, which is private mortgage insurance. So it's just an added price on the loan because they're putting less than 20% down. That could go away in the future as the value of the property goes up. Because, right, so.
Which is the case in FHA loans most.
Yeah, right, okay, let's look at this, your offer has been accepted. So congratulations, now you have an accepted offer, okay? So now you want to get a fully executed copy of the purchase agreement. So that means you wrote an offer and there was a counter offer. You want to make sure that the seller signs every single page of the offer. Now, let's think about this. You wrote an offer for $1 million. The listing agent sends you a one-page counter offer for 1.1 and your buyer accepts it. The seller still has to initial every single page of the original offer because the price was just one term. There's 100 terms on the offer. So the seller is agreeing to every single term in the offer, signing it, and then they're going to check the box subject to. Fed slashes rates by 0.5 percentage point. Wow, it's first cut in 4 years. There we go. Thank you, Richard. You guys are the first to hear it. 0.5 point cut. So when you guys are out in the real world after this class, you can talk about that.
They were saying it might be a quarter.
0.5 point. That's a huge cut. So I know that a quarter point was priced into rates. So that extra quarter point could be a motivational factor for any buyer. They got 0.5 point down. I don't know what's the Fed rate. I don't know. I always go to B of A, Bank of America, to look at the rate. Let's keep going. All right, so we want to get we need a fully executed copy of the offer. So the seller is going to sign every single page. They're going to accept the original offer subject to seller counter 1. Okay. Seller counter 1 is only going to change the terms they don't agree with. So usually on my seller counter 1, it's going to say purchase price to be this, deposit to be 3% of purchase price, liquidated damages and arbitration are part of this agreement. Escrow to be this escrow company, title to be this title company. That's usually going to be my standard response. Now, if you're going to respond to it and you agree to all those things, the only thing that you need to counter with is price. You don't need to put any additional terms on the counter offer. Something I don't like to see is when agents write in to their counter offer, all other terms to remain the same. What does that mean? All other terms to remain the same. What does that mean? Did they just invalidate everything else? Like, I don't know what that means. The only thing that should be on a counter offer is what you don't agree with. Okay. So if someone wants me to look at their deal, and I need to first see where they're at. So I need to see the offer and all the counter offers. I'm going to start with the offer. I'm going to write, here's the price, here's the deposit, here's the contingency times, here's the close of escrow time. Then I'm going to look at seller counter 1. What changed? And I'm going to go like that. By the time I get to the last counter offer, I'll know what changed. If I see the term anywhere, all other terms to remain the same, I'm out. I don't know what to do at that point because that can be interpreted every different way. So I just don't like to see that term. All right.
Couldn't that be marked like in red or yellow, whatever it's changed?
Other terms to remain the same. What does all that mean? All other terms remain the same. Does that mean you're not agreeing to everything or you are agreeing to? I don't know. All other terms remain the same. It's just, I don't like vague. I like to be very specific. When I write something in a contract, there should be no room for interpretation. A 5-year-old should be able to read the sentence and explain to me what it says. Okay. So now we're going to email a copy of the fully executed offer to the buyer, the listing agent, escrow, our transaction coordinator, Brian. We're going to start a command file. And now, if we're representing a buyer, we need to now order inspections. Okay, what are we doing in inspections? The most important inspector I have is my general inspector. They're the most important. So that's the first person I'm calling. And I'm going to say, what is your schedule? Okay, I'm going to book my general. After I have my general reserved, then I'm going to reserve a sewer inspection, chimney inspection. If the property is on a hillside, I might get a structural or geological inspector. If the property has a pool, I might get a separate pool inspection. If the general doesn't do that,
Isn't all this up to buyers? Is up to you?
it's up to the buyer. The buyer has to pay for all these things. I'm gonna get a mold inspection, termite inspection. All these people are gonna come at the same time. I'm not going to the property every single different time appointment, every different.
How do you know how long?
Everyone's coming at the same time. The general inspector, that could be a 2 to 4 hour inspection. I'm gonna tell everyone else the same time to come. So if the general inspector is coming at 9 AM, I'm scheduling my sewer for 9 or 10, chimney 9 or 10, everyone else 9 or 10, because I know my general is gonna take the longest.
I think some companies offer all of them at.
Yeah, there are companies that all in one stop shop. Yeah, you can do that.
Okay.
Over time, you're gonna have favorites, people, you're gonna have a listing that another agent brought their inspector, you're gonna really like their inspector, you'll start using their inspector, that'll be your new inspector, so. Over time, these things will change. I would say the most important inspections here that I'm always, I don't like to use the words always and never, but. If I'm in a house, most of the time, I'm going to do a general. Main one. Your buyer may push back on the chimney and say, I don't need to investigate the chimney. It's okay. Well, even in a condo, I'm gonna do a chimney inspection. Why? Because if there's a problem in the chimney, now's the time to know it. Because you don't want to light anything on fire and then it combusts inside the chimney. Also, when your buyer goes to sell that property, there's going to be a chimney inspection, right? And then they're going to have to pay for if there's any problems with it. If you're in a condo, now's the time to find out if there's a problem, because now we can twist the HOA's arm to come and fix it. If you're just living there after you buy it, the HOA is going to have it at the meeting. They're going to talk about it. No one's going to be in any pressure to do anything about it. Now's the time.
But for chimney, do you not need to?
They're going to put a camera up the chimney.
No, you don't need to bother other people.
No, they're gonna put, they have a rod with a camera and they put it up and then they attach another rod. They keep pushing it all the way up and they're looking all the way around 360. And they're looking at.
Imagine you're upstairs and there's a camera going through your.
No, that's not right. So that's not gonna happen because the chimneys they have a stack and it'll go into a main vent. So the camera's going up the main vent.
But doesn't it also depend on the type of chimney?
Yeah,
My parents have a regular one, it's just a big old hole.
okay,
Up and it's just open.
right. So there are you see those big brick chimneys?
That's what, yeah.
So there are those big brick chimneys that are actually brick and mortar. And that mortar deteriorates over time just from weather.
Yeah.
And the chimney company has to come in and they have to re-mortar and put some kind of paint inside to fix that. A lot of chimneys may look like a brick chimney on the outside, but on the inside, it's just a steel pipe.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, we don't know until we have the chimney inspector come out. Okay, at the inspections, us as agents, we need to do something called an AVID. It's an agent visual inspection. We are not considered inspectors, but we have to give a visual description of the property. So I'm just looking at the property, stains on carpet, marks on walls, crack in ceiling, those kind of things. I'm not using any adjectives because whatever you think is small as a seller, the buyer thinks is huge. Okay, there's two different perspectives. So I don't use any adjectives.
Verbal or written, do you need to write?
Not to do this in writing. The best time to do this is at the inspection. Just bring your AVID. While the inspectors are doing their thing, you're going to be filling out your AVID. Get business cards from the inspectors because what's going to happen, you want to leave a business card at the property from every inspector that was there. So here's what's going to happen. Everyone's going to pack up and leave. You're going to come back to the office. The other agent's going to go to their office. The seller's going to come home after a long day at work and they're going to try to turn something on. It's not going to turn on. Right? And they're going to be cursing. Oh, well, what happened? Who did this? What? Don't worry. The listing agent's going to call you and say, you need to get your inspector back there right away. Don't worry. I'm going to tell the listing. Don't worry. There's a business card on the counter. The homeowner can call the inspector directly and ask and tell them what's going on. And that usually puts out the problem. They get on the phone with the inspector. The inspector goes, "You're right. I could have left that switch off. Sorry."
JJ, what's the qualification of the good inspection? I mean, the ones that also, I mean, what you should look for?
Thorough.
Thorough, I mean, does it have to be expert a little bit in chimney and sewer or
I need a
Yes.
thorough inspection.
thorough, right?
It's more important to me to have a thorough,
Detail,
correct inspection
correct.
than a non-thorough error inspection.
Yeah.
If once someone puts something in writing, it's hard to disprove it. Right?
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going. We're gonna request disclosures from the listing agent. So there are two things that the seller has to fill out by hand. There's a ton of disclosures, but all those disclosures are just digital signature, digital initial. But there are two documents that the seller actually has to fill out. Those are the transfer disclosure statement and the seller property questionnaire. They ask very specific questions like, has anyone died on the property in the past 3 years? Has any part of the property been painted? Has there been any water intrusion in the property? What have you fixed recently? Those kind of things. So I need, yes,
On the question, has anyone died on the property? I recently heard the new laws are dictating if the buyer is asking you, you will disclose.
yes. So if the buyer is asking if anyone's died on the property, we have to tell them if someone's died on the property in the past three years. If they've died of AIDS, and that's protected, we can't say that. We can only say, if they ask the nature of the death, we can disclose if we know,
I mean,
but if it was AIDS, we can't say that.
how about somebody commit suicide or murder or something, somebody kill somebody?
Okay, now, if there's a heinous crime committed on the property, I would say that goes beyond the 3 years.
Oh,
I would say that trumps the 3-year rule. Because that's a material fact now. Now that's called a material fact.
Oh,
If someone hung themselves or.
You're gonna have to disclose that forever and ever and ever.
ever and ever.
You can't tear down the OJ
Which is-
Simpson,
yeah,
the Nicole Simpson house.
you can tell it.
You can't tear it down and build a new property and not disclose that Nicole Simpson was murdered on that property.
But that's a condo, so you couldn't tear it off.
I'm just saying, if it was a house, like,
Yeah.
you're right, you can't do that.
But
Like,
in 3 years,
it's a material, so the law is that a death on the property within the past 3 years has to be disclosed.
Okay.
That's the
so
law.
That doesn't apply for Jason Simpson.
Well, but I'm calling that a material fact. So there's something called a material fact. What's a material fact? That's something that may sway a decision, a purchase to be made, yes or no, or affect the price of the property. That's what I call a material fact. Something that could change someone's decision or change their price. Yeah.
So initially, when we list the property, are we supposed to say someone passed away on this property?
I wouldn't advertise it, but
Not on the MLS.
not on the MLS, but when I'm talking to a buyer, so when I'm talking to a buyer, I want the buyer to know everything bad about the property. It sounds counterproductive. But I want the buyer to know all the bad things up front. Because when they get the TDS and the SPQ, they should be, oh yeah, I knew that, I knew that, I knew that, I knew that, I knew that. No surprises. That's the best.
so how would you tell them, hey,
I would say, so let's just say at an open house, I have a buyer that loves this property. They're gonna put an offer in, and I'm walking them around the house. I'm saying, oh, by the way, here's what the seller disclosed to me. You know, there's a chip here. This hasn't been working forever. Like, they never even cared about it. The steam shower, you know, as soon as they moved in 10 years ago, it broke and they never fixed it. And I'm just walking them through the house and I'm telling them everything. You know, it belonged to the parent who passed away. She died of old age, natural causes, right? Whatever. And that's it. The buyer knows now. So when it's
what if someone
disclosed,
killed themselves?
they're not gonna
What are
disclose.
you gonna say, someone killed themselves here?
Yeah.
Just like that.
Unfortunately.
So as a listing agent,
Yeah.
when someone walks in, when they open the door, do you say someone killed them?
No.
Welcome.
And have that conversation with someone who's ready to write an offer.
So when they ask, you tell them?
If they ask that question, like there's a property in Beverlywood that, unfortunately, there was a son who murdered his father in the property. People know in that area about the house. So it's over 10 years ago, right? But if you're the buyer of that house and that wasn't disclosed to you, after your buyer buys that property, the neighbors are gonna be like, I can't believe you bought that house. Bother
You
you?
know what happened?
Right.
You have to tell them.
And so there's gonna be a lawsuit. Yeah,
I know
right.
that.
All I'm doing is trying to present a
Why
lawsuit.
did you know that? The seller told you, hey, there was a father that killed.
Like everyone in the area that's been there long enough, no,
They know
I
that.
know it.
No, I know, I'm saying you as a,
Just-
how do you know?
How do I know the seller hopefully shared it with me?
And what
Because
is it-
at my listing appointment, I'm telling the seller, please tell me everything you know about the property.
Yeah.
So, because that will help you. Sellers are afraid to tell you anything
Mhm.
because they think it's gonna hurt them. But don't tell them, it's better if you tell me now so I can avoid surprises in the future.
A lot of
So let's
people
say he
don't
didn't
say-
tell you and you sold the house and you didn't know, and then they find out someone.
So we are only responsible for disclosing what we know. We can't disclose something we don't know. But we will be named in a lawsuit.
But at a listing form, you'll say, has anyone died here? You really say that?
It's under disclosure.
It's on the disclosure.
So, but you would.
Oh, I have 3 or 4 times recently. It involved where the seller puts on the TDS that someone died. And I'm like,
But when-
"You
when did it-
disclose this? Like, seriously?
When did they tell you that once someone's going into escrow, like at the end? They don't tell you in the beginning, like when you go for a listing point, they don't tell you, hey,
I mean,
someone.
there's a reason that you're there.
Alright.
So usually you're there because you're helping the kids sell a property that they've inherited, maybe.
Uh-huh.
The parent passed away.
Uh-huh.
So I am gonna ask, guys, did they pass away in the house or not?
No, but what if someone someone killed themselves in that house? How are you gonna know that? You're gonna ask them at the listing appointment? Is anyone?
They should be disclosing that to you. I'm not asking them, has anyone killed themselves in the house?
Oh, so they just told you all these houses, they told you, hey, by the way,
Or 20.
I think if someone owns a house that someone hung themselves in, they are telling you as the agent, by the way, just letting you know, we have to deal with this, yeah.
okay.
Just from experience, I think if you Google the address, if there is a report, a police report or anything about killing, or there was like journalists at that property, you would find them.
Great idea. Google.
You know, just Google it.
Yeah,
That's what I always do.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so now, you sent your purchase agreement accepted to escrow. Escrow is now at the same time as you're scheduling your inspections. Escrow is gonna send you a draft of the escrow instructions. So the escrow instructions, don't forget, escrow is a neutral party. So the buyer and seller, escrow can't do anything unless the buyer and seller both agree. But they're gonna send you it, you're gonna review it. When you look at the escrow instructions, you're gonna make sure that your client's name is correct. The other party's name is correct. The address is correct. The purchase price is correct. The date of acceptance is correct. If they've put contingency dates on there, you want to make sure those are correct. So you just need to go back into the contract, make sure that the escrow instructions reflect your offer and counter offers and all the terms are correct. Okay, then you're going to email escrow, looks great. They're going to send the escrow instructions out. You're going to have your buyer wire their 3% deposit to escrow. You're gonna have to now have a constant conversation between your buyer and the lender. We want to make sure this deal is gonna close on time. So always ask your buyer, what is the lender waiting for from you? Ask the lender, are you waiting for anything from the buyer? All right, so just keep in contact, make sure things are getting done on time. A 30-day escrow is super fast. It really is. It seems like forever to us because we're waiting to get paid. But it's a fast time. Okay, so after inspections, the general inspector is gonna go through the report. So what usually happens, the general will go through everything. At the end of the inspection, I'm gonna come to the kitchen table with the buyer and the general inspector will tell us what they found with the buyer. Right? And a lot of times, I'll wait for everything. Oh, I'm just gonna shut up the whole time. I'm taking some notes. At the end of the spiel that the inspector gives, I'm gonna go back to my notes and say, do you mind showing us what you were talking about with this? And I want the inspector to come take us there and show us, because sometimes the inspector is gonna say something that sounds like a crazy thing. And when the buyer actually sees it with their own eyes, what he's talking about, right? So I already know that there's gonna be a report that comes back and the buyer's not gonna remember what he's talking about. So I want them to see firsthand while the inspector's there and can explain it. At the end of inspections, once all the reports come back, because now 24 hours later, 48 hours later, the inspectors that we hired are gonna send all the reports back. Now I'm gonna create a spreadsheet and I'm gonna go through the report, all the reports, and I'm gonna put everything down that the inspector said. And I'm gonna try to put a price to fix all these items. It's a guesstimate or an estimate. I might have to get an electrician to give me a bid. I might have to get a plumber to give me a bid. But I'm gonna come up with a guesstimate with a number. Okay, now I have a number. I don't want to give the list of fix-it items to the seller, because the seller is gonna say, I'm not fixing that, I'm not fixing that, I'm not fixing that, or that's too much, that's too much. I'm not doing that. It's only for my buyer. We're gonna come up with a number and we're gonna ask the seller for a credit or a price reduction. Okay? My first call might be to the lender, just to say, I'm gonna be we're gonna be asking for a credit. What's the maximum credit this loan will allow? So you need to do that first before you ask for anything. You need to make sure that you're not asking for too much as a credit. Because the lender, some loans will only allow you to have so much credit. So if it's a big number, you might have to do a price reduction. So I'm just having that conversation with the lender. And that's it. We're gonna ask for it. We're gonna do a request for repair. There is a strategy you can ask for double, right? Let's say your buyer, all those numbers come up to 20,000. You can ask the seller for 40 and try to negotiate down to 20 and get what you want. Just make sure if you're gonna use the double it strategy, that your buyer knows the strategy. Because your buyer is gonna get very attached to the 40 once it's in writing and signed. Okay. And then they're gonna want the 40. So just make sure if you're using the double it strategy, the buyer knows the outcome that you're going for. Okay, you're going for half. Okay, that's it. Before closing, you're gonna do a walkthrough of the property. So you're gonna have 5 days before closing to walk through. It's called a verification of property condition. You're just verifying that the property is in the same condition as when you went into escrow. It's not a contingency. You can't back out. If you come to the property right before closing and there's an issue, maybe you can still close, but you didn't give all the money to the seller, like you withheld 20,000 in escrow until a certain issue gets fixed. I would say close and just withhold some money. Don't, but you can't back out because of it. But depending what it is.
Can you take anybody else with you? Like if the seller fix something, can you take an inspector or a contractor
So
to
the
see
seller-
whether he did it?
Yes,
Is
you
it
can,
like
you
that?
can. So in the contract, it says that the seller is responsible for providing receipts and proof that the work was completed.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not crawling in the attic
Yeah.
to make sure that the electrical J box had a cover on it.
Yeah.
I'm not climbing up there right? But they need to take a picture of it or have a receipt for me that the work was complete.
Good.
It is in the contract.
Oh, is it
Yeah.
the contract?
It's in the contract.
Oh,
I was just involved in a deal. Now, usually we don't want the sellers to do any repairs.
yeah, I
We
mean,
don't want that. Guys, I want you to hear that. We don't want sellers to do repairs. Because the seller is gonna do the cheapest way possible. Right? The buyer's not gonna be happy. Get the money, let the buyer do the repair. If the buyer hires someone to fix something and it doesn't, and then it breaks a week later, they can call the vendor back and come out and fix it again. If the seller did the repair, now I have to call the other agent has to call the seller has to, all right. So we always want the buyer to do the repair. I was just involved in a deal where the sellers were flippers. This is a rare kind of deal.
oh,
When you're dealing with a seller who's a flipper, they're gonna want to do the work instead of giving you the credit. Because they have a crew,
oh,
right? So they're gonna want the long list of stuff to fix. So I was involved in a deal where it was a flipper. We gave them the list, and in the request for repair, it says, we want all this repaired and we want a picture of every repair. Okay, and they agreed. Because that's their business. They have a crew. So it's cheaper for them to do the repair than to give a credit. All right, that's it for today. I'm gonna break it. So any questions about the buyer process?
I need a buyer.
Go get a buyer. Where do buyers come from? So
Where?
everywhere, everyone's a buyer.
Hopefully this open.
Open houses are amazing.
Not amazing.
Open houses are amazing. Why?
I get better buyers outside than open houses. Open houses are.
So if I want to be in a $10 million price range, I can go do an open house for a $10 million property, and I'm meeting $10 million buyers and I'm meeting $10 million neighbors. that have property to sell. Instantly,
Are so annoying.
but I'm just saying, like,
It's the neighborhoods you're going into.
such an opportunity. Because you're, whatever price range you want to be in, all you need to do is get an open house.
Get something like that. You're right, but you may get.
Any other form of prospecting.
They act like they own the whole neighborhood.
Because
They act
those
like
all
they
kind
know
of.
everything.
You don't, they will, are you hoping
Most
that
prospecting.
they are of 10 people, one of them?
So again, I said it a couple of days ago, I'm gonna say it again. I had a coach who, you know, we're in this is the entertainment capital of the world in LA. Actors, when they're acting, that's the fun part. An actor's work is going on auditions. An agent's work is prospecting, going on appointment listing.
Yeah.
Prospecting. That's our work. The fun part is selling the property. Once you have the listing, this is the fun part. The hard part is the auditioning part. Right? It's the prospecting part, getting the appointment part. That's the work. Like an actor has to go on auditions.
I think the hard part is selling.
It's amazing to me when I see like Leonardo DiCaprio or Brad Pitt doing a reading, right? They're going on auditions for directors
Oh, yeah.
doing readings. Like these are, right? So
And that's harder than real estate, I will say. I have actor friends and it's literally impossible for them to get anything, even like small films,
yeah,
so hard.
everything, every business has its challenges.
So she's a property manager because acting is not working.
All right, guys, have a great Wednesday. I purposely did 2 classes today because we have bowls tomorrow. At 1 p.m.
1 p.m. is a good class.
At 1 p.m. here, the MLS is coming.
Yeah.
Just, you know, don't leave if you
Yeah,
can.
1
Stay for that.
p.m.
All right, guys, thank you.
Are you staying for the MLS?
Yeah, I always say about that.
Silo,
Okay,
is MLS.
can you please put the link?
It's on Zoom too.
So
Yeah.
But they always come, I hope they come with a new idea. Usually they come with a new idea, new technique every time.
Yes, nice.
I might stay.
Where you want to go? Eat?
I had a great lunch.
Oh, I have
Maybe I'll-
big breakfast.
Oh, lucky.
Somebody paid for it.
Oh, love it.
I tried lunch.
Huh?
I tried the lunch.
Lunch right down there, yeah.
First time. I don't know.
It's a breakfast bagel place.
I like the name Noosh more.
The best thing for that,
Never heard of it.
just to bring your own lunch. Get the avocado, tomato, and it's something make it fantastic.
Something we can prepare that.
No one, it's gonna be pretty, they love you.
the kitchen is in my house no more.
Lawyers need some.
Wait, what?
I haven't been to kitchen for a while.
Oh my God. Like I said, I have no kitchen. I was like,
No,
what?
I do, but this.
But do I use it?
I mean, it's all, I.
I'm in kitchen, I'm in kitchen.
That's how I feel and I know I have all this time, but it's not.
I'm in the kitchen all the time.
I
I have one wife.
Do it, but we get this like.
She doesn't cook for me. She cook for the grandchildren.
Us right now, so it's.
That's good enough.
If they're not there, go hungry.
New job.
No.
Yeah, so.
So,
But they.
Yeah, art foundation.
Shows on the fly-in.
Yeah, the same place, like literally. like,
They didn't press finish. They didn't finish something.
Right, if it, they're kind of older, so it's like.
When she's not there.
If they re-log in,
Yeah, because
they'll-
we'll see.
they should be able to.
Travels and I'll just like bring coffee.
They don't have to redo it. Like if they re-log in, they'll see where they left off. It'll tell,
Sees like.
yeah, it'll tell them like,
Yeah,
they didn't finish something.
yeah, if you ask for help.
To get it help. He's looking for a second.
I don't know how you would though. Like going there onto their computer, like.
Yeah, like that's.
You can do a free trial of Splash Top. If they're older, they might not.
Yeah,
Hey, Maddie.
so I'll just tell them to redo it if not.
Let me ask you a question.
They just have to redo it. They just have to. Yeah.
Okay.
And his.
They don't have to read.
Like.
They don't read.
Everything says.
Everything.
Worse, like my.
They just have to complete. They have to press. Just smash it.
Everything about it is just like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
So if the guy wanted to see 3 properties.
then also not include houses.
It comes down to good.
Oh, and he like.
I've been doing it.
Like.
Got here at like 9:30, 9:40. Oh, yeah, I woke up super early. And I was like, Parents trying to
like
see what's happening.
weird jobs that aren't
Just
their responsibility,
have
it's
this
not.
property,
Any property
that I built in my backyard.
But it's like the guy who's asking to do not what
is their agent.
Is it done though? Finally done, but it's like, it took forever. Like this guy left for vacation for like 3 weeks. And within those 3 weeks, he only sent workers to do work like,
that like.
oh, 1 day a week. I was so
But
funny.
it's so hard to like get into that.
Yeah, just like finish the thing. Like for 2 months, I was like,
And they pay
hey,
him
my closet door.
well below what he should be making.
Yeah, like it
Even
even put
after
the
asking.
the glass right
below
to
it.
the border and everything. He's like, oh, yeah, yeah. Until he came back like a week later and I kept like calling him over and over again. Finally, he did.
Not a like.
But then it's like, you know, you see stuff, it's kind of like. He
70s.
says like, in the area's eyes, all of a sudden you start noticing all the boxes and like, there's like a little
Well,
like chip there, a little feet. There's like
Today, which is
everything.
Third years.
And now they replaced the.
But it's like their brains are, they're just out of.
Because there was a leak.
It's like.
And so they had to replace that and then they replaced the vanity and the vanity is still in front of my
Nothing,
property.
nothing.
Not thrown away, no trash. I'm like, oh, God, dude, come on.
My buddy's a builder and
Yeah.
every day he's saying the same thing. It's like,
just never eat.
they're not getting it done or they're not showing up or all that stuff.
Yeah, then the workers are, like, the workers, like, they tell them, do this. They're like, oh, this, no, my job's only this little thing and everything else is not my problem. I'm just like, oh my God, dude.
Fine.
You can see like, the guy who put the vanity, like, oh, I'm not a painter. So when they took off the vanity, the new one is a little worse. It's like this much.
Yeah, it has a paint
And then,
issue
and then
there.
the paint got, you know, when you rip it off, the paint just peeled right here.
For.
Like, oh, you're gonna fix that? It's like, oh, no, I'm not a painter. I just came to do this. And so they had to wait a couple days, the painter in, fix that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's almost like the end of the contractor has to hire like a finish painter.